Hi, good day. If you guys are new to our channel, well, I'm Anton Meerkotter, known as Coach Anton from Coach Anton Pty Ltd on our channel Coach Anton here on YouTube. Now, if you are new to the series, our series has been and is about how to use sports mental coaching, assisting you in not just knowing what is out there and what can be done, but actually how to apply it and deciding when to use what as well. So you would have seen a lot of our series. If you go back in it, if you are a regular here, you would have seen in the series we've been cutting down on our bigger framework. Now, in the bigger framework, the main topic we are talking about at the moment is individual player aspects. So if you go look at individual player skills and mental skills, one of those is leadership skills, and that's what we're covering today, is leadership skills. Now, in our last one, we covered characteristics. So in the event of you having seen that, I hope that you enjoyed it. I've not had any specific comments on there. So if you would like to go and see it, please do so. And remember that I do give a shout out to those who actually leave comments related to the video below our videos as well. So it's important that you actually leave a comment if you would like to get a shout out as well. As from our side though, thank you so much for those who have commented in the past and those who of course have watched our last video as well. In this one about leadership skills, I will tackle one of the topics as topics inside it and subtopics rather, which is form vs leadership. Now, why am I talking about form vs leadership skills? And what exactly is leadership? What type of leadership do you get? Well, obviously you get those who lead because of their performance, all right? Because of their actual ability, because of the great skills they've got. They just go and they give their best at it. And as a result, people follow because they're giving a necessary commitment, but at the same time having a great skill. Unfortunately, that is linked and limited to form. However, if you've got leadership skills as a character trait, I will explain the difference. Even when you lose form in your playing ability, your team still need you on the field and you can still make a difference. And that's the big difference between the leader because of playing ability and the leader because of a mental skill of being a leader. Now, we will break it down and see what is this type of qualities of leadership skills that we are talking about here. And I will use some examples of players who have clearly been those type of players. Now, I will also refer to some players who I believe have got some of these qualities, but they are great leaders mostly because of their playing ability. All right, and that would have to go down to players such as Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, those are some of the biggest sports figures at the moment, without any doubt. Even though they are both in the same sporting code, they're definitely two of the biggest sporting figures right now. But I will refer to some past characters out there as well, who's been great characters in terms of their characteristics or rather personality traits in terms of leadership skills. And if we go look at some of those, you'll definitely recognize them by leading teams to great success, even though at times they might not have had the greatest form. And let's go and have a look at some of those. So if you go look at some of your great leaders out there who basically had this leadership skill, you'll have to look at players that comes to mind. And I'm going to speak in terms of a South African context as well. We are very strong in terms of our following on our sports and competitiveness on sports. Even though in soccer we might not be amongst the top countries in the world, we're still amongst the top countries being mentioned in the world because in Africa we're still doing fairly well. And in terms of our other sporting codes, we are doing very well across a global front. And if we go look at that, you'll think of players such as Tovey. Now I'm going to take it back all the way in 1996 when he won the African Cup of Nations with South Africa as a captain. And then you look at later years at Radebe, which perhaps in England is known as Radebe. Okay, now that, for example, is supposed to be pronounced as Lucas Radebe, in case you're watching this from the UK. He used to play for Leeds United in the English Premier League, and when they got relegated 16 years ago, that's quite historical right now, because they just got promoted back into the English Premier League, and he was the captain of them, and chose to stay with them whilst most of the stars actually left. By the way, that's another trait of an actual leader as well. Not dropping a team and running when it gets tough, but deciding he's going to make sure he brings them back, taking responsibility as well for outcomes and or results. So if you're basically looking at Lucas Radebe, who else do I want to mention? In rugby spheres, I think by far, in my view, the best captain we've had probably would have to go down to Francious Pienaar, who won the World Cup in rugby when we were not actually quite yet on a global front as strong as we could be. We were fighting a lot of political division, and man, what a character he was. Francious Pienaar in the rugby environment for me is still the best captain that's ever been. And he was a captain who led from the example of being a great leader in his character traits. Another one would be that of Hansie Cronjé. Hansie Cronjé was an absolute brilliant player in terms of that as well. Excellent character, and by far one of the strongest in terms of character traits as well we've had. And that's in the cricket environment again. So I've mentioned to you a couple of our strong leaders out there, and leaders obviously are more important when it comes to your team sports than your individual sports. Not to say that the leader is not important in the individual sport, but obviously in a team sport, you've got to lead others around you. I mean, let's just think, what is a leader? A leader is leading others around you, leading a team around you. Therefore, you actually need a bit of a team environment, unless if you're in charge of an athletic team, maybe going to the Olympics, for example. Now, if you go look at some of the traits that we are talking about and that I'm referring to here that you should be having, some of those qualities. What is those qualities? Number one, you've got to be able to organize the team and or motivate the team as well. Organize is important. You've got to see things coming. So for you to organize, you need the next skill, which is that of being able to read the game. All right. Now that's a very important skill. And that specific skill takes you so many places, because you can help to organize the guys around you and get them to perform better. So as a leader, you get everyone around you to perform and excel at an exceptional level. And that stands out. In the last few years, I've even seen Lionel Messi starting to do that quite well. And he previously didn't really lead by doing those type of things. But I've seen it. I mean, if you just look at the last couple of weeks at his constant conversations with Fati, that is really brilliant. I mean, I have seen how he has implemented the skill as well, and actually like what he has become in the last year or two. Now, if you basically go look at some of the other ones, what is that? Motivational, I've mentioned. Now, how do you motivate a team? Well, firstly, you need to understand the diversity of the team, if your team is quite diverse. In South Africa, our teams are generally quite diverse, and I believe globally, teams are becoming more and more diverse, since you've got more players from different countries and different continents actually participating against one another. So when a team is very diverse, what makes it difficult to motivate them is that you do not always have an understanding of what drives that individual's motivation from a cultural or background perspective. So it's important to try and learn more about one another's background and those in the team in order to be able to do it effectively as well. Now, another thing, of course, is when it comes to motivational aspects, you want to make sure that you are not just motivational on the day of a game, but that is part of your personality throughout. That is very key and very important. You can't go and just on a day be motivational. You've got to be motivated throughout as part of your character traits. And that doesn't mean you can't have an off day. It just means that you've got to always be more positive than negative out there. You've got to see the positive things in what's happening around you and the positive outcomes that could possibly happen. And that's what you really should be focusing on. Our next one is related to what I've mentioned earlier about you being able to read the game. And that is obviously important so that you can be proactive, all right? Why not reactive. I mean, so many players are reactive out there. Now, what the bad thing is about being reactive is the opponent can always have a higher probability of having the upper hand on you if you are reactive. You've got to be proactive, so you know what could happen that could possibly be bad for the team. So if you see the opponent starting to do that, you can already start changing positioning around you and or your own positioning to implement or influence that. That also obviously implements your own positioning in the field, and that itself is also a great aspect, helping you, especially if you become off form in other aspects, perhaps maybe in terms of speed or physical aspects in terms of fitness and some more as well. All right, then you basically have confidence. That's another big one. So if you're looking at confidence, man, there's no leader out there that's not confident. Now, some people say bragging. I say, well, okay, there's a bit of a difference, all right? Bragging is ultimately something that stands out, right, to many people as look at him and he's just a bragster. But if you are talking about what is true, is it really bragging? Right? If you're referring to true facts, is it bragging? Right, perhaps. Or is it boasting, as someone call it? Perhaps. But I think the key thing for me is being confident, believing in your own ability and that of the teammates around you when you're going into a match. Believing in the possibility and probability of getting a win out of any game that you enter. That is extreme confidence, knowing that you always stand a chance if you do not give up. Now, if we go look at these great skills that I've referred to, and we basically go look at some of these leaders and the names that I've mentioned earlier, which of those do you really enjoy, and could you perhaps identify in your own game? Or which of those do you feel like you really need to go and work on as an individual player? Now, it's important that you get coaching on working on that, but you also learn from those who have got those skills when you want to work on that. Now, others say to me, why do I need to look at the aspect of leadership versus form? Shouldn't I have both? Well, naturally, if you've got both at the same time, you'll be able to outperform the opponent so much easier. All right? The reality is that to have both is not always the case, and you are going to lose form somewhere along your career, somewhere along every season, most likely. All right, now if you go look at that form that you lose, there's reasons to it. Sometimes it's overtraining, sometimes it is too little training due to maybe injury or whatever that you've had, and whatever the case may have been. There's also other aspects that impacts your form, and that could be related to your diet and so on as well, and perhaps your actual physical conditioning, such as even your weight in comparison to height and strength and all of those aspects that you need to consider. And that is very important. The type of muscle that at that stage is dominant. All of those aspects implements your form, and your training impacts those things as well. So if we go look at that, yes, that's important. However, in terms of mental skills, when all else is balanced, when all else is equal, what defines the best player on the field is the difference in the mental aspects of the game. The difference in the temperament and the mental skills of players. That's what's going to define performance and define outcome when everything else is equal. But now, that left aside, if you basically go look at it and we basically ask ourselves the question, all right? You're now that player that basically have got this leadership skills. You lose form. But remember what I mentioned. You impact the team to win. You motivate the team to win. Even if your coach do not put you on the field in the starting lineup, he would still want to have you at least on a bench because of your presence that might be impactful as well. Or he might bring you in as a sub, or he might start with you knowing that he will substitute you because of form, perhaps fitness that is lacking at a time. All right? So why? Because he wants to have your presence on that field. He wants to have your influence on that field that can get the best out of the players to perhaps create momentum or regain momentum. Perhaps when you're coming on as a substitute, for example. Right, so starting to gain momentum or coming onto the field to regain momentum when you need to motivate a team and get them back into action around you because you help them to believe in themselves. If that's the type of leader you are, coaches will want you on their side, inside the team, in the starting lineup, or at least on the bench, even when you're off form. It's a great skill. If you're a young player watching this, please go and work on it. If you're a more senior player working on this, or watching this as well, please go and actually work on your skills in leadership. It will really benefit you. You might have some of these skills already that I've mentioned, but I would like to go and encourage you to go and continue working on it and continue progressing in terms of these skills. If you'd like professional services for that, of course you can contact myself through any of our contact details. It should appear on your screen right now. And if you've enjoyed the content that's on here, please go ahead and like our channel and of course subscribe to our channel. And you will also see the subscription link appearing on the screen. If you want to see more of the rest of our series, there should be a link as well if you're watching this on YouTube right now. And that link will take you to our series on how to use sports mental coaching. From my side though, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you back as I continue with the series in the next video. And hopefully had some of your comments to give some shout outs to some of my great followers as well. From my side though, have a great week, have a great day, see you next time.